The Zephyrian home system was a sight to behold. 3 planets orbited a binary star, each one covered in massive cities that stretched from pole to pole. This was the heart of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. But today, it would fall. Fleet Admiral Ryan Cox stood on the bridge of the UE's Dominion, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Around him, over 200 human vessels moved in perfect formation. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction, equipped with weapons that could tear apart reality itself. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting the Zephyrian defense fleet. Over 3,000 ships, arranged in defensive formations around their capital world." Cox nodded. He had expected this. The aliens had gathered everything they had to protect their home. But they still didn't understand what they were facing. "All ships, prepare for battle," he ordered. "Today we end this war." On the planet below, High Command General Zethmer was watching the human fleet approach. He had seen the reports from the frontier worlds. Entire Zephyrian fleets destroyed by these primitives. It seemed impossible, but the evidence was clear. "How many ships do they have?" he asked his aide. "Our sensors count 212 vessels, sir. Far fewer than our defense fleet." Zethmer felt a moment of relief. The humans were outnumbered, 15 to 1. Even with their advanced weapons, they couldn't possibly win against such odds. He was wrong. Admiral Jake Morrison was now commanding a battle group of 50 ships. His orders were simple: destroy everything that moved. The humans had tried diplomacy, had tried to be peaceful. The Zephyrians had chosen war instead. "All ships, engage at will," he commanded. The quantum torpedoes struck first. Unlike the aliens' energy weapons, these didn't just destroy ships. They erased them from existence. Entire sections of the Zephyrian fleet simply vanished, leaving nothing but empty space. Captain Danny Pierce led his fighter squadrons into the heart of the alien formation. His pilots were no longer the defenders they had been at Earth. They were hunters, and they had been perfected by months of constant warfare. "All wings, pick your targets," he ordered. "Make every shot count." The human fighters moved through. The alien fleet like ghosts. Their cloaking technology made them invisible until the moment they fired. Zephyrian ships exploded without ever seeing what had killed them. But the real shock came when Dr. Nina Palmer's planet-killer weapons were deployed. 3 massive missiles, each one containing enough quantum energy to destroy a world, were launched toward the Zephyrian capital. "Sir," reported his weapons officer, "the planet killers are armed and targeted. Detonation in 60 seconds. Cox felt no satisfaction, only cold determination. The Zephyrians had forced this choice when they threatened Earth. Now they would face the consequences. Down on the planet, High Command General Zethmer was watching his fleet die. The humans were cutting through his defenses like they weren't even there. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were being destroyed by an enemy they had thought was primitive. "Sir," his communications officer said in panic, "we're detecting massive energy signatures heading for the planet. They single quotes re ... They're targeting the surface." Zethmer understood. The humans weren't just trying to defeat the Zephyrian fleet. They were going to destroy the entire world. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he ordered desperately. Admiral Cox's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, but his eyes were as cold as space itself. "This is High Command General Zethmer of the Zephyrian Empire. I wish to discuss terms of surrender." Cox's expression didn't change. "The time for surrender was 72 hours ago. You chose war instead." "Please," Zethmer begged. "There are billions of civilians on this world. They're innocent. So were the humans you threatened," Cox replied. "You wanted to destroy every city on Earth. Now you'll learn what that feels like." The transmission ended, and moments later, the planet-killer weapons struck. The Zephyrian capital world cracked like an egg, its surface boiling away in quantum. Fire. Billions of lives ended in seconds. The surviving Zephyrian ships tried to flee, but the human fleet was waiting. Captain Emma Stone led a pursuit force that hunted down every escaping vessel. None were allowed to survive. "All enemy ships destroyed," she reported. "The Zephyrian capital fleet is completely eliminated." But the humans weren't finished. Admiral Cox had received reports from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire was collapsing as news of their capital's destruction spread. Conquered worlds were rebelling, and local commanders were surrendering rather than face the human fleet. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was coordinating the surrender of Zephyrian forces throughout the galaxy. Her psychological warfare techniques had convinced many alien commanders that resistance was hopeless. Over 400 worlds had declared independence from the Empire, she reported. Most are requesting protection from Earth. It was exactly what Cox had hoped for. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't just been defeated, it had been completely destroyed. The galaxy was now free from their rule, but freedom came with a price. Humanity was now the dominant power in the galaxy, and they had achieved that dominance through overwhelming force. Commander Grace Miller was establishing human command posts on former Zephyrian worlds. Her job was to maintain order and ensure that no other species tried to fill the power vacuum left by the fallen empire. "The locals are cooperating," she reported. "They're more afraid of us than they ever were of the Zephyrians." That was the point. Cox had learned from history that sometimes peace could only be maintained through strength. The galaxy needed to know that threatening humanity would result in swift and total destruction. Colonel Sam Parker was overseeing the occupation of former Zephyrian military bases. His soldiers were finding evidence of the Empire's crimes. Entire species enslaved, worlds stripped of resources, billions of lives destroyed in the name of expansion. "Sir," he reported to Cox, "what we're finding, it's worse than we thought. The Zephyrians weren't just conquerors. They were monsters." Cox nodded grimly. The evidence justified what humanity had done, but it didn't make the victory feel any better. They had become the galaxy's police force, and that was a responsibility they hadn't asked for. Admiral Morrison was patrolling the outer systems, ensuring that no remnants of the Zephyrian fleet remained. His ships moved through space like sharks, hunting down any threats to the new galactic order. "All sectors report clear," he told Cox. "The Zephyrian Empire is completely eliminated." "Good. Now we begin the hard part." The hard part was governing a galaxy. Humanity had destroyed the Zephyrian Empire, but now they had to decide what would replace it. Cox had already made that decision. "We're not conquerors," he announced to his fleet commanders. "We're protectors. Our job is to ensure that no species ever threatens another world's children again." The new galactic order was simple. Any species that threatened others would face the same fate as the Zephyrians. Peace would be maintained through the threat of overwhelming force. Years passed. The galaxy learned to live under human protection. Trade flourished, wars ended, and species that had been enemies for centuries learned to cooperate. The threat of human intervention kept everyone in line. On Earth, children learned about the Zephyrian War in school. They were taught that humanity had tried to be peaceful, but when forced to fight, they had proven unstoppable. The lesson was clear. Never threaten Earth's children. Dr. Kevin Walsh continued to develop new weapons, ensuring that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. His quantum technologies were now decades ahead of anything else in the galaxy. "We're ready for anything," he reported to the Global Defense Council. "If another threat emerges, we'll be able to deal with it." But no threats emerged. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was too powerful, too ruthless when threatened, to oppose. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive now ruled through fear and respect. Admiral Cox retired to Earth, where he was hailed as a hero. But he knew the truth. Humanity had won their war, but they had lost something in the process. They had become the very thing they had once feared, a galactic empire maintained through overwhelming force. Still, when he looked at the children playing in Earth's parks, he knew it had been worth it. They would grow up in a galaxy where no alien species would ever dare threaten their world. The Zephyrians had wanted to conquer Earth. Instead, they had created humanity's galactic empire. The final message was broadcast to every world in the galaxy, repeated in every language, and transmitted to every species. It was simple, but it carried the weight of absolute truth. Earth protects its children, threaten them, and face extinction. This is not a warning. This is the law of the galaxy. The Zephyrians had thought they were conquering a primitive world. Instead, they had awakened humanity's true potential. The galaxy would never be the same. The wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet floated in space around Earth like a warning to the galaxy. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, but he wasn't celebrating. The victory had been complete, but it was only the beginning. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Tony Kim, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Fleet Admiral Ryan Cox wants to speak with you." Jake had heard rumors about Ryan Cox, but had never met him. Cox was supposedly in charge of humanity's most secret military projects. If he was making contact now, it meant something big was happening. Cox's face appeared on the screen. He was older than Jake, with gray hair and scars on his face that told of battles fought in secret. Behind him, Jake could see a massive command center that he had never seen before. "Admiral Morrison," Cox said, "congratulations on defending Earth, but the real war is just starting." "Sir, the Zephyrians didn't come here alone. They have an entire empire behind them. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships. They'll come back with everything they have." Jake felt a chill. The battle for Earth had been hard enough. Fighting an entire galactic empire seemed impossible. "What do you suggest, sir?" Cox smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. "We don't wait for them to come back. We go to them first." Within hours, the truth about humanity's secret preparations became clear. Fleet Admiral Cox revealed that Earth had been building a massive space fleet for decades. Hidden shipyards in the outer solar system had been producing warships that made the UE Science look like a toy. Captain Emma Stone was the first to see the new fleet. She stood on the bridge of her ship, the UE's Retribution, watching as dozens of vessels emerged from concealment. Each ship was sleek, deadly, and equipped with weapons that could destroy entire planets. "My God," she whispered, "how long have we been building these?" 30 years, replied her first officer, Commander Gary Mills. "Ever since we first detected alien signals. We've been preparing for this day." The fleet was massive. Over 200 ships, each one more advanced than anything the Zephyrians had. But more importantly, they were crewed by humans who had been trained specifically to fight aliens. Dr. Kevin Walsh was putting the finishing touches on his latest creation. The Quantum torpedoes that had destroyed the Zephyrian fleet were just the beginning. His new weapons could tear holes in space itself, allowing human ships to attack from impossible angles. "The space-fold torpedoes are ready," he reported to Admiral Cox. "They can hit a target from anywhere in the galaxy." "Good. We're going to need every advantage we can get." The plan was simple but brutal. Earth would not wait for the Zephyrians to return. Instead, humanity would hunt them down across the galaxy, destroying their empire world by world. Captain Danny Pierce was now commanding a squadron of the new stealth fighters. These were even more advanced than the ones that had destroyed the alien fleet. It could travel faster than light, while remaining invisible to all known sensors. "All pilots, listen up," he told his squadron. "We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're going on the offensive. The aliens wanted a war, and now they're going to get one." The first target was the Zephyrian forward base on Kepler 442b. Intelligence. Reports indicated that it was a major staging area for attacks on other worlds. If humanity could destroy it, they would send a message to the entire galaxy. Colonel Sam Parker was leading the ground assault team. His soldiers were equipped with powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any alien warrior. They had been training for years to fight in alien environments. "Remember," he told his troops, "we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every world the aliens have conquered. Show them no mercy." The human fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves. They used quantum tunneling to travel faster than light, appearing at the alien base without warning. The Zephyrians there had no idea what was coming. Captain Emma Stone led the attack. Her ship, the UES Retribution, emerged from hyperspace directly above the alien base. Around her, 50 other human ships appeared at the same moment. "All ships, open fire," she ordered. The quantum weapons struck the alien base with devastating effect. The energy shields that protected it were useless against human technology. Within minutes, the entire facility was destroyed, but the humans weren't finished. Colonel Parker's troops landed on the planet's surface, hunting down any aliens who had survived the orbital bombardment. They moved through the alien structures like ghosts, their armor making them nearly invisible. "Base secured," Parker reported. "All alien forces eliminated. We're capturing their technology and taking prisoners." The prisoners were important. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had developed new methods for extracting information from alien minds. She needed to know the locations of other Zephyrian bases, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get that information. "They're terrified," she reported after interrogating the first prisoners. "They've never faced an enemy like us. They don't understand how we got so advanced so quickly." "Good," replied Admiral Cox. "Fear will make them make mistakes." The information from the prisoners was valuable. The Zephyrians had bases throughout the galaxy, but they were all connected by a network of communication relays. If humanity could destroy those relays, they could isolate the alien worlds and attack them one by one. Commander Grace Miller was developing new tactics specifically for fighting the Zephyrians. She had studied their methods during the battle for Earth, and she knew their weaknesses. "They rely too much on their technology," she explained to her fellow officers. "They don't adapt well to new situations. If we can keep surprising them, we can defeat forces much larger than our own." The next target was a Zephyrian communication hub near the Vega system. It was heavily defended, with over 100 alien ships protecting it. But the humans had learned from their victory at Earth. Admiral Morrison commanded the attack force. His fleet used quantum cloaking to approach the alien base undetected. When they struck, it was with overwhelming force. "All ships, focus fire on the communication array," he ordered. "We need to cut their ability to call for help." The human weapons tore through the alien defenses like they were made of paper. The quantum torpedoes passed through the enemy shields, destroying ship after ship. Within an hour, the entire base was in ruins, but the victory came with a cost. The humans had learned that the Zephyrians were calling for help from their home worlds. The main alien fleet was mobilizing, and it was massive. "Intelligence estimates over 5,000 ships," reported Commander Mills. "They're gathering at their capital system. If they all attack together, even we might not be able to stop them." Admiral Cox studied the reports. The Zephyrians were finally taking humanity seriously, but they were still thinking like conquerors. They would bring their entire fleet to Earth, expecting to overwhelm human defenses with numbers. "Let them come," he said. "We'll be ready." But Cox had a different plan. Instead of waiting for the aliens to attack Earth again, humanity would strike at the heart of their empire. The Zephyrian capital world was heavily defended, but it was also the center of their entire civilization. "If we can destroy their capital," Cox explained to his officers, "their entire empire will collapse. The conquered worlds will rebel, and their fleet will have nowhere to return to." It was a dangerous plan. The Zephyrian capital was protected by thousands of ships and planetary defense systems. But humanity had advantages that the aliens didn't. UNDERSTAND, Dr. Nina Palmer, had been working on her most ambitious project yet. Using quantum physics, she had found a way to create weapons that could destroy an entire planet. The technology was terrifying, but it might be necessary. "The planet-killer weapons are ready," she reported. "But, sir, using them would mean destroying billions of lives." Admiral Cox looked at the reports of worlds the Zephyrians had conquered. Entire species had been enslaved or wiped out. The aliens had shown no mercy to anyone who opposed them. "They chose this path when they threatened Earth," he said. "We're going to show them what happens when humans are forced to go to war." The human fleet began its journey to the Zephyrian capital. Over 200 ships, each one equipped with weapons that could destroy entire worlds. They moved through space like death itself, carrying humanity's message to the galaxy. The Zephyrians had wanted to conquer Earth. Instead, they had awakened something that would destroy their entire civilization. The hunt had begun, and humanity would not stop until every threat to Earth was eliminated. As the fleet traveled toward the alien capital, Admiral Cox sent a message to every world in the galaxy. The transmission was simple, but terrifying in its implications. "This is Fleet Admiral Cox of the United Earth Forces. Any species that threatens humanity will face complete destruction. This is not a warning. This is a promise." The galaxy was about to learn that threatening Earth's children was the last mistake anyone would ever make. The 72 hours were almost up. War Commander Thexval stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive blue planet below. No surrender message had come from the humans. This was expected. Most species tried to fight before accepting their fate. "Begin the attack," he ordered his officers. "Target their major cities first. We'll break their spirit quickly." The Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation. Massive energy weapons began to charge, preparing to rain destruction on Earth's surface. But the aliens were about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake. Captain Danny Pierce sat in his fighter, waiting for the signal. Around him, 50 other pilots were ready to launch. Their ships were invisible to alien sensors, hidden in the shadow of Earth's moon. "All units, this is Control," came the voice in his helmet. "Operation Prometheus is now active." "Repeat, Operation Prometheus is active. You are cleared to engage." Danny smiled. "You heard them, people. Let's show these aliens what humans can do." The fighters launched silently, their cloaking systems making them invisible to the alien fleet. They moved like ghosts through space, approaching the massive enemy ships without being detected. At the same time, Admiral Claire Watson was preparing her own surprise. The UE's Vengeance and 12 other ships had been hiding behind Jupiter for 2 days. Now they were ready to strike. "All ships, prepare quantum torpedoes," she ordered. "Target the largest enemy vessels. We need to hit them before they realize we're here." The quantum torpedoes were Dr. Kevin Walsh's masterpiece. Each one contained enough energy to destroy a ship 10 times its size. But more importantly, they could pass through the alien shields like they didn't exist. On the alien flagship, Thexval was giving his final orders when something impossible happened. His sensors detected massive explosions throughout his fleet. Ships were dying, and he had no idea why. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Sir, we're under attack." "But I don't see any enemy ships." That's when Danny Pierce's fighters struck. They appeared suddenly, firing weapons that tore through alien hulls like paper. The element of surprise was complete. The aliens had been preparing to attack Earth, but they found themselves fighting for their lives. Impossible. Dexval screamed. Where did they come from? His tactical officer was panicking. "Sir, they're everywhere. Ships appearing from nowhere. Our shields aren't stopping their weapons." 3 massive alien ships exploded in the first 10 seconds of the battle. Danny's fighters were too fast and too small for the alien weapons to target effectively. They struck and vanished, then struck. Again from a different direction. But the real shock came when Admiral Watson's fleet arrived. 12 human ships appeared from hyperspace, immediately launching a coordinated attack. The quantum torpedoes hit the alien vessels with devastating effect. "Direct hits on all targets," reported Watson's weapons officer. "The alien shields are useless against our weapons." The Zephyrian fleet was in chaos. They had expected to fight. A few primitive ships with simple weapons. Instead, they were facing technology they had never seen before. On Earth, Major Ben Cooper was coordinating the ground defenses. The aliens had tried to send landing ships to the surface, but they were met with weapons that shouldn't have existed. "All ground stations fire at will," he ordered. Energy beams shot up from hidden locations across the planet. The alien landing ships were destroyed before they could reach the atmosphere. The ground defenses were far more advanced than anything the aliens had detected during their surveillance. Dr. Nina Palmer was watching the battle from her laboratory. Her quantum field generators were working perfectly, disrupting the alien communications and making their ships easier to target. "Their coordination is breaking down," she reported to General Harrison. "They can't communicate with each other effectively." "Excellent. Keep it up." The battle was turning into a slaughter. The aliens had brought a fleet designed to destroy a primitive world. Instead, they were fighting an enemy that had been preparing for this moment for decades. Commander Luke Bennett was coordinating the next phase of the attack. The hidden human colonies were sending reinforcements. Ships that the aliens had never seen were entering the solar system from multiple directions. "Station Alpha reports 50 ships inbound," he announced. "Station Beta is sending 30 more. They'll arrive in 20 minutes. Admiral Jake Morrison couldn't believe what he was seeing. The alien fleet that had seemed so powerful was falling apart. Human ships were appearing from everywhere, each one equipped with weapons that could destroy vessels 10 times their size. "Sir," said Lieutenant Tony Kim, "I'm reading massive damage to the alien fleet. They're trying to retreat." "Don't let them," Jake ordered. "We end this here." The U's Defiance joined the battle, its quantum weapons tearing through alien ships like they were made of paper. The aliens were learning that threatening Earth came with consequences they had never imagined. War Commander Dexval was in shock. Half his fleet was destroyed, and he still didn't understand how it had happened. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They had basic nuclear weapons and simple spacecraft. This was impossible. "Sir, we need to retreat," his tactical officer urged. "We're losing ships faster than we can count them." "No," Dexval shouted. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. We don't retreat from primitives." But it was too late. Another wave of human ships was arriving, and these were even more advanced than the first group. The hidden colonies had been building warships for 30 years, and now they were all converging on Earth. Captain Maria Santos was watching her quantum mines activate throughout the solar system. The aliens were trying to escape, but they were running into hidden weapons at every turn. "They're trapped," she reported. "The mines are forcing them back toward Earth, where our main fleet is waiting." It was a perfect trap. The aliens had thought they were surrounding Earth, but actually Earth had surrounded them. Every escape route was blocked by human weapons. Doctor Amy Rodriguez was studying the alien behavior from her command center. She had been trying to understand their psychology, and now she was seeing something interesting. They're not just losing, she told President Carter. They're terrified. They've never faced an enemy that could match their technology. Good, the president replied. Let them be afraid. They threatened our children. The battle was almost over. The Zephyrian fleet was down to less than 20 ships, and those were damaged and trying to escape. But the humans weren't finished. Admiral Watson ordered the final assault. All ships target the remaining alien vessels, no survivors. The quantum torpedoes struck again, and more alien ships exploded. The mighty Zephyrian fleet was being completely destroyed by an enemy they had thought was primitive. Lieutenant Commander Helen Burke was intercepting alien communications. What she heard made her smile. They're calling for help, she reported. They're trying to contact their home worlds, telling them that Earth is more dangerous than they thought. Let them, said General Harrison. We want the rest of their empire to know what happens when you threaten humanity. The last alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. The battle for Earth was over, but the war was just beginning. War Commander Vexfall's flagship was the only vessel left, and it was badly damaged. He stared at the view screen, watching human ships surround him. This was supposed to be a simple conquest. Instead, it had become a disaster. Sir, his communications officer said weakly, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Admiral. Morrison's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. This is Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. Your attack on our world has failed. You have exactly 1 minute to surrender, or we will destroy your ship. Vexfall felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were hunting his people with a coldness that terrified him. You? We're supposed to be primitive, he whispered. Morrison's expression didn't change. We were, until you threatened our home. The alien commander looked around his bridge. Most of his crew was dead or wounded. His mighty fleet was gone, and the humans were waiting for his answer. I surrender, he said quietly, but Morrison shook his head. Too late. You had your chance to leave in peace. Now you'll serve as a message. To your empire. The last alien ship exploded, and the battle for Earth was over. But Admiral Morrison was already planning the next phase. The aliens had made a mistake when they threatened humanity. Now they would pay for it. Earth was safe, but the war was just beginning. Colonel Rick Turner had been waiting for this moment for 15 years. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, in a facility that didn't appear on any government database, he stood before a massive steel door marked with radiation warnings and biometric scanners. Operation Prometheus is now active, he announced to his team. All protocols are in effect immediately. The door opened with a hiss, revealing a chamber filled with weapons and technology that most humans had never seen. Sleek silver missiles lined the walls, each one containing experimental quantum warheads. In the center of the room stood something that looked like a small spacecraft, but with no visible engines or weapons. How long do we have? Asked Dr. Kevin Walsh, the physicist who had spent 10 years developing the quantum weapons. 68 hours, Rick replied. The aliens think they gave us 3 days to surrender. They don't know we've been preparing for this since the 1950s. Across the world, similar scenes were playing out. In Australia, Captain Maria Santos was leading her team through an underwater facility that had been built inside a natural cave. System. The ocean above them was calm, but below, dozens of people were preparing weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The quantum mines are ready, she reported to her superior. We can place them anywhere in the solar system within 12 hours. Do it, came the reply. All positions around Jupiter, Saturn, and the asteroid belt. The aliens think they control our space. Time to show them they're wrong. On Earth's surface, everything looked normal. People went to work, children went to school, and the news continued to report on the alien ultimatum. But beneath the surface, humanity was preparing for war. Commander Luke Bennett was on the far side of the moon, in a base that had been carved into the lunar rock decades ago. His job was to coordinate with the hidden human colonies that the aliens had never detected. Station Alpha, this is Lunar Command, he spoke into his communication device. Operation Prometheus is active. Repeat. Operation Prometheus is active. The response came from a location 50 light years away. Lunar Command, this is Station Alpha. We're ready. The fleet is prepared and waiting for your signal. Luke smiled. The Zephyrians had been watching Earth for 72 years, but they had missed something important. Humans had been secretly traveling to other star systems for the past 30 years. Not just exploring, but building. Creating hidden bases and fleets that could return to defend Earth when needed. Back on the UES Defiance, Admiral Jake Morrison was receiving reports that amazed him. Ships that he had never heard of were activating across the solar system. Weapons platforms that looked like space debris were coming online. The asteroid belt, which the aliens had ignored, was suddenly full of human military activity. Sir, said Lieutenant Tony Kim, I'm reading massive energy signatures from ... everywhere. It's like our entire solar system just woke up. Jake looked at his tactical display. Red dots were appearing all over the screen, representing human forces that had been hidden until now. How many ships do we actually have? I'm counting over 200 active vessels, sir. And that's just in our immediate area. Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, War Commander Thex Fall was reviewing the human response. His 4 eyes studied the primitive planet below. The humans were showing signs of panic, which was normal. Some were trying to flee their cities. Others were gathering in groups. All predictable behavior for a species about to be conquered. Commander, said one of his officers, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the human system. Dexful barely looked up. They're probably testing their primitive weapons. It doesn't matter. When the time comes, we'll destroy them all. The officer looked uncertain. Sir, these readings are ... different. Stronger than we expected. Impossible. We've been monitoring them for decades. They have basic nuclear weapons and simple spacecraft. Nothing that can threaten us. But the officer was right to be concerned. Dr. Kevin Walsh's quantum weapons were unlike anything the aliens had seen before. They didn't just explode. They created tears in space itself, allowing energy from other dimensions to pour through. A single quantum torpedo could destroy a ship 10 times its size. Lieutenant, Commander Helen Burke was in the intelligence division on Earth. She had spent her career studying alien technology, preparing for this exact moment. Now she was listening to every communication the Zephyrians made. They're overconfident, she reported to General Harrison. They think they know everything about us. But they keep talking about our primitive weapons. Good, Harrison replied. Let them think that. The longer they underestimate us, the better. Helen had discovered something important about the alien ships. They used a type of energy shield that was incredibly strong against traditional weapons. But the shields had a weakness. They couldn't adapt to new types of energy fast enough. Dr. Walsh's quantum weapons would go right through them. Captain Danny Pierce was preparing his squadron of fighters for launch. These weren't the aircraft that the aliens had observed during their surveillance. These were something new, built in secret facilities and equipped with experimental cloaking technology. Remember, he told his pilots, they can't see us coming. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we disappear. Just like we trained, the fighters looked almost alive. Their hulls were black and seemed to bend light around them. When they moved, they left no heat signature, no energy trace. They were invisible to almost every type of sensor dot. As the hours passed, the aliens continued to monitor Earth. They saw the expected panic, the military preparations, the attempts to contact other nations. Everything looked normal for a species about to be conquered, but they missed the important things. They didn't see the quantum mines that Captain Maria Santos had placed throughout the solar system. They didn't detect the hidden fleet that Commander Luke Bennett was coordinating. They didn't realize that the asteroid belt was now full of human weapons, platforms. Admiral Claire Watson was commanding the UES Vengeance, a ship that didn't officially exist. It had been built in a secret shipyard near Neptune, using technology that was decades ahead of anything the public knew about. Her crew had been training for this moment for years. "All stations report ready," she announced. "Quantum torpedoes are loaded and targeted. Shields are at maximum power." "Ma'am," said her weapons officer, "the quantum torpedoes are showing full charge. Dr. Walsh's calculations indicate they'll penetrate any known alien shield technology." "Good. When this starts, we need to hit them before they realize what's happening." The countdown continued. 54 hours until the alien ultimatum expired. On Earth's surface, President Carter was addressing the world. She spoke from the White House, with flags from every nation behind her. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "we face a threat unlike any in human history, but we will not surrender. We will not submit. We will show these aliens that they made a mistake when they threatened our home." The speech was broadcast to every human settlement, including the secret colonies that the aliens didn't know about. It was a signal that the time for hiding was over. Major Ben Cooper was in charge of Earth's ground defenses. But these weren't the simple missile systems the aliens had observed. These were energy weapons that could reach into space, powered by fusion reactors that had been built in underground facilities. "All ground stations report ready," he told General Harrison. "If they try to land on Earth, we'll be ready for them." The aliens were still confident. War Commander Vexvol looked at his tactical display and saw a primitive world with limited defenses. His fleet was the most powerful in the galaxy. The humans had nothing that could threaten them. But Dr. Nina Palmer was in her laboratory, putting the finishing touches on humanity's most secret weapon. She had been studying theoretical physics for 20 years, waiting for the chance to test her discoveries. Now she was ready to show the aliens that human science was far more advanced than they realized. "The quantum field generators are online," she reported. "If this works, we can disrupt their entire fleet with a single pulse." As the second day of the ultimatum began, both sides prepared for war. The aliens believed they were facing a primitive species with simple weapons. The humans knew they were about to surprise an enemy that had conquered hundreds of worlds. The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main window. He had been in space for 20 years, but today felt different. The ship's computers were picking up something strange at the edge of the solar system. "Sir, we have contact," said Lieutenant Tony Kim from his station. "Multiple ships coming out of hyperspace. They're big, sir. Really big." Jake walked over to the screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Dozens of massive alien ships were appearing one by one. Each ship was 5 times larger than his own vessel. They moved in perfect formation, like they had done this many times before. "Get me Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Priority 1. Within minutes, the communication system crackled to life. General Pete Harrison's face appeared on the screen from Earth's military headquarters. His expression was serious. "Admiral, we're seeing them too. Our deep space sensors are going crazy." What's your assessment? Jake looked at the alien fleet again. More ships kept appearing. General, I count at least 50 vessels. Maybe more. They're not trying to hide. They want us to see them. Suddenly, every screen on the bridge lit up with the same image. An alien creature appeared, unlike anything humans had ever seen. It had 4 eyes, gray skin, and wore what looked like military armor. When it spoke, the words came through perfectly translated. I am War Commander HFY of the Zephyrian Empire. You will listen carefully, humans of Earth. Jake felt his crew tense up around him. This was first contact, but not the kind anyone had hoped for. The alien continued. Your species has been observed for 72 of your years. We have watched your wars, your violence, your primitive technology. You are not worthy of joining civilized space. On Earth, President Lisa Carter was rushed into the emergency bunker beneath the White House. The Global Defense Council was already gathering. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the world's leading expert on potential alien life, stared at the screens in amazement and fear. The Zephyrian Empire claims dominion over this sector of space, the alien announced. We have conquered 437 worlds. Your planet will be the 438th. General Harrison clenched his fists. What do they want? The alien's 4 eyes seemed to look directly at each viewer. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Your governments will dissolve. Your military will be disbanded. Your people will serve the Empire as workers and slaves. Jake Morrison had heard enough. This is Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. Earth does not negotiate with invaders. State your intentions clearly. The alien's expression didn't change. If you do not surrender in 72 hours, we will destroy every city on your planet. Every human will die. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Down on Earth, President Carter gathered her closest advisors. The Situation Room was packed with military leaders, scientists, and diplomats. Everyone was talking at once. We need to evacuate the major cities, said Defense Secretary Bill Murphy. Evacuate to where? Asked Dr. Rodriguez. They have ships. Around our entire planet now. General Harrison stood up. We fight. It's that simple. With what? Demanded Secretary of State Corinne Walsh. You saw those ships. We've got maybe 20 vessels that could even reach space combat range. Dr. Rodriguez was studying the alien transmission on her tablet. There's something about their behavior. They're not just conquering us. They're enjoying this. They want us to be afraid. President Carter looked tired. She had been in office for 3 years, dealing with economic problems and climate issues. This was beyond anything she had trained for. Options, she said simply. General Harrison activated a wall screen. We have defensive platforms around Earth. Orbital weapons, the fleet. It's not much, but we can make them pay for every inch. And then what? Asked the president. They destroy us anyway. Maybe, but we don't go quietly. Meanwhile, on the U.S. Defiance, Jake Morrison was receiving reports from all over the solar system. The alien fleet had positioned itself perfectly. Ships near Mars, others by Jupiter, and the largest group sitting just beyond the moon. They know our system, observed Lieutenant Kim. They've been watching us for a long time. 72 years, Jake replied. They said they've been watching for 72 years. That means they know everything about us. Chief Engineer Carol Stone looked up from her station. Sir, I'm reading some unusual energy patterns from their ships. Whatever they're using for. Power is not anything we understand. Jake nodded. Keep monitoring and prepare the crew for combat. Sir, you really think we can fight them? Jake looked at the alien fleet again. The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. Smooth, dark metal that seemed to absorb light. They moved without any visible engines, gliding through space like sharks. In water. "I think we don't have a choice," he said. Back on Earth, President Carter was making the hardest decision of her life. The alien ultimatum was clear: surrender or die. But as she looked around the room at her advisors, she saw something in their eyes. Fear, yes, but also anger. And determination. "General Harrison," she said finally, "prepare our defenses. All of them. Ma'am, with respect, it might not be enough." "Maybe?" "Not, but we're going to show them that humans don't surrender. Ever." The word went out across Earth within hours. The alien ultimatum was broadcast to every nation, every military base, every ship at sea. The message was simple. Earth had 72 hours to surrender or face destruction. But there was something the aliens didn't know. Something they couldn't have seen in their 72 years of watching. Humans had secrets. Deep, dark secrets. That had been hidden for decades. In underground bunkers around the world. Sealed blast doors began to open. Lights came on in facilities that officially didn't exist. Men and women in military uniforms walked through corridors that weren't on any map. Admiral Morrison received a coded message on his personal communication device. Just 4 words: "Operation Prometheus is active." He smiled for the first time. Since the aliens had arrived, the Zephyrians thought they knew everything about humanity. They were about to learn they were wrong. The countdown had begun. 72 hours to surrender. But Earth had other plans.